From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
The House ramps up its impeachment inquiry and investigation into Hunter Biden's business dealings as Republican presidential candidates get set for the fourth GOP primary debate. Welcome, I'm Kyle Peterson with the Wall Street Journal. We are joined today by my colleagues, columnist Bill McGurn and editorial board member Mene Ukwe-Barua. Speaker Mike Johnson has made some news in recent days suggesting that he has the votes in the House to formally approve an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Here he is explaining why he intends to do that on Fox News Saturday.
It's become a necessary step. Elise and I both served on the impeachment defense team of Donald Trump twice when the Democrats used it for brazen partisan political purposes. We decried that use of it. This is very different. Remember, we are the rule of law team. We have to do it very methodically. Our three committees of jurisdiction, Judiciary, Oversight, Ways and Means, have been doing an extraordinary job following the evidence where it leads. But now we're being stonewalled by the White House because they're preventing at least 2 to 3 DOJ witnesses from coming forward, a former White House counsel. The National Archives, the White House has withheld thousands of pages of evidence. So a formal impeachment inquiry vote on the floor will allow us to take it to the next necessary step. And I think it's something we have to do at this juncture.
But despite that difficulty and evidence that he is referring to, some new evidence has come forward from the Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, saying this week that subpoenaed bank records show Joe Biden received in 2018 3 payments of about $1,400 from one of Hunter Biden's business firms. Here is James Comer on NBC Tuesday talking about the evidence that his committee is gathering.
I think we've had evidence a long time that's very concerning to the American people, evidence about President Biden's involvement in firing the Ukrainian prosecutor, evidence about the Bidens taking millions of dollars from China, Uzbekistan, Russia, for things that we really don't know what they did to receive the money. So we have accumulated a lot of evidence. We followed the money. We've been very transparent with the press and the American people about what we found. Now we're in the final stages, and that includes depositions of all the key witnesses.
Bill, your column this week is on this subject under the headline, "The Hunter Biden Saga Continues," for any listeners that want to go read it. Can you give us a sense of what this new evidence by James Comer suggests and where you see this inquiry heading?
Okay, yeah, 2 separate questions. The first on the evidence. He released evidence of payments from Hunter Biden's business account of, I think, $1,800 each, 3 payments in 2018. And after he released it, the Washington Post reported that this was for a truck that Joe had bought, but Hunter was using. When I went back to the Oversight Committee, they said that really didn't matter because the point was Hunter paid it out of his business account where he got Chinese money and so forth there. So it was evidence of money going from Hunter's business to Joe. It's very murky. It comes on top of, we know there was a check written by Joe's sister-in-law, his brother James' wife, Sarah, for $40,000. They came after a Chinese payment into the brother's account. So there's a lot of murky things. The Oversight Committee tells me that the banks have been very cooperative in providing the records that they've demanded, but the White House has not been. They've been stonewalling on the emails Joe sent under an assumed name while he's vice president, as well as officials from, like, say, the FBI. They want to find out. The FBI has a 1023 form from an informant saying a Burisma guy told them they paid bribes to Joe and Hunter Biden of $5 million each. And the Oversight Committee wants to know, what did the FBI do about it? Did they investigate and find out it was false? And the White House is preventing answers. And so for this reason, they want a formal impeachment inquiry because impeachment subpoenas are far more powerful than regular congressional subpoenas. Regular subpoenas can be litigated. There's usually a back and forth between the White House. It takes a long time and so forth. They have to have a legislative intent. But impeachment is another category altogether. The courts are likely to be a lot more friendly to congressional impeachment subpoenas. Now, that's a mouthful. As far as what it means, the speaker said that they're going to have a vote. And everything that he said that you just played is correct about the next step in White House stonewalling. What he didn't say is that we're in this fix because his predecessor, Kevin McCarthy, after criticizing Nancy Pelosi for just launching an impeachment inquiry on her own authority without any vote, it was criticized by Republicans at the time, including all the leaders and so forth. And then Kevin McCarthy turns around and does the same thing. So I think this is good. It will give the Republicans more tools to find out answers, but it also holds Republicans to account. Impeachment is a power Congress has, but it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be fraught with all sorts of calculations, and a lot of Republicans have to wonder if they vote for it, if they're in a Biden district, will they lose? That's good. It concentrates the mind, and it lets them off the hook when their leader just declares an impeachment inquiry. Having to vote on it is a way of enforcing accountability, both for Joe Biden and for the Republicans who want to impeach him.
I think that point about accountability for the Republican House is a good one because, as Bill describes, it was on September 12th that Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced that he had asked these House committees to open impeachment inquiries. And so this impeachment process, Monet, has been going on for 3 months almost now. And there is something to be said for having a House vote to approve that. On the other hand, I do find myself wondering whether Republicans are at risk of overplaying their hand here. And this bit about the truck payments allegedly between Hunter and Joe Biden is maybe a good example, because when the Oversight Committee released that, the first thing that I saw on Monday was the headline. Here is how the Oversight Committee put it. Comer releases direct monthly payments to Joe Biden from Hunter Biden's business entity. And I thought, And then the second thing I saw was the reporting on this. And it's not that there's anything exactly wrong with that headline from the Oversight Committee, but it's 3 monthly payments of about $1,400 each. And so, Monet, I do wonder whether Republicans are at risk of overplaying their hand in a way that is not going to convince the median voter, the independent voter, the swing voter, which is what you really need to do when you're making the case for impeaching the president potentially and removing him from office, probably in 2024 in an election year, some months before he is going to go to the voters for re-election.
I think that's definitely a risk here. We do have a situation where the broad strokes of Joe Biden's relationship with Hunter and Hunter's business dealings do show clear impropriety, quite a lot of which has been proven. We know that Joe Biden was taking meetings with some of the people with whom Hunter was doing business deals. Joe Biden initially denied discussing Hunter's business with his son, and that was later proven to be untrue. We had the testimony from Devin Archer, who was a former associate of Hunter Biden, saying that Joe Biden was, to some degree, aware of what his son was doing. But the question has been whether Joe Biden was profiting from it, whether he was directly receiving any kind of payment. That has been the main focus of the House Oversight Committee's investigation thus far, trying to look at the paper trail and see if they're able to actually document any hard evidence that Joe Biden was a beneficiary. There's some insinuation from things that Hunter has said in text messages and other conversations that his father was benefiting, but the House is trying to demonstrate with hard evidence that that was the case. And I think that any kind of impeachment process is going to depend in part on that track record. And so it's not surprising that with the little bits of evidence that they have been able to find that we're aware of thus far, that they would want to put a big headline over it to try to show the public that they're making progress and getting closer. But it is true that there's a mismatch between the expectation and the actual story when you do have the suggestion that Joe Biden is being nailed by what they're able to dig up thus far. And if people do look a little bit closer, I think most would say that those $1,380 payments thus far in 3 monthly installments don't account to any kind of clear evidence that Joe Biden was receiving regular payments from Hunter's business, despite the fact that it was coming from the business rather than the personal account. And so it does seem as if it would be a better strategy for the House Republicans to figure out exactly what they have before the process starts playing out in public. But I think if you're looking at it from Mike Johnson's point of view, the process is already underway. Particularly, the Republican Party base is aware that this informal impeachment inquiry has been going on, and they want to know that it's proceeding regularly. The members know that they're going to be held accountable by voters for pushing it forward. And so he probably feels as if the best thing to do is to continue to stay on the track, to formalize it with the vote that's going to allow them to dig several levels deeper and to get testimony from other witnesses who have been withheld from presenting the evidence they might have that might incriminate Joe Biden. And so they're just trying to balance that line between not overemphasizing the evidence that they already have and slowly taking the steps that might allow them to get a little bit closer if there is anything that really would more directly implicate Joe Biden to be found.
Bill, what's your read of this question? Because I don't think it's going out on a limb to say that Hunter Biden's influence peddling here is a little sleazy. On the other hand, I see many Republicans saying in frustration that Democrats are moving the goalposts and arguing that if you can't find any official action by Vice President Biden, or if you can't find any sort of direct six-figure payment into Joe Biden's bank account, that this investigation has not found anything substantive. And I understand that point. On the other hand, I worry that the Oversight Committee is sort of feeding that narrative by claiming that it has found these direct monthly payments. And then when people dig into it, maybe it's about some sort of truck that was being purchased. And maybe that's true, or maybe that's not true, or maybe they will find more monthly payments. I mean, who knows what is in the bank records that the committee is trying to get at. But it is also a matter of managing what the public is supposed to expect out of this process. And particularly, like I said before, like when we're going into an election year and potentially talking about impeaching and removing the president.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'd point out, as you say, the truck payments, we don't know if that's really true. We know on the previous week, the information about the money from his brother, they said it was a loan, but the bank examiner that flagged the transaction said there was no paperwork for a loan. I don't think Joe Biden deserves the benefit of the doubt. He has lied all the way through this and now tried to shift the debate. First, it was, I know nothing. I know nothing what Hunter's doing. We didn't take a dime from China and so forth, our family. The intelligence officer said the laptop was disinformation. My understanding is that the email that confirms these latest repayments were for a truck came from the laptop. So it's apparently not phony for that. Joe Biden has not told the truth about this at every point along the way. I don't think he deserves the benefit of the doubt. And I think what the Republicans have unearthed is a corruption scheme that, for the reasons Monet laid out at the beginning, meeting with people, taking Hunter along on business trips where he was able to shake down foreign leaders and so forth. I think that's corruption. He abetted his son's business schemes and wants to pretend he knows nothing about it. So even if he didn't take a nickel, I think that's really a problem. I would just like to know the truth. I don't think Joe Biden with this Senate is going to be removed, even if they found a payment. But I would like to know the truth of what happened, because there's been so many lies from the beginning, and only the work of the Republicans has been able to show that Biden has never been telling the truth. I hope he's asked about it in the next presidential campaign, but the reporters don't seem interested.